Sir, may I come in? Thank you, ma'am.
AASHU PANT.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you belong?
I belong to Champawat district in Uttarakhand.
Okay, but you don't live there.
I live there.
You live there
Yeah.
still?
Yeah, I still live there.
Okay.
After lockdown, actually, I'm working.
You're working.
So I used to live here in Noida. Post that, because of the lockdown, I moved
You
to
had
my
to
hometown.
move. Right. So after BTech, did you study anything, or BTech was the final?
BTech degree I did. That after that, I did my job.
Okay. How many years?
First, I worked for around 2 years with Samsung. Then I took a break of 1 year to prepare for the civil services.
Yeah.
Then I joined again, and currently I'm working with Oracle India Private Limited.
Oh, you're still working. Where did I miss that? Finish. So, you know, you've heard of budgeting in a budget
Yes, ma'am.
session, they do budgeting, right? So it depends on income expenditure, right? So have you heard of gender budgeting?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
I mean, gender budgeting, as you told, in budgeting we have to map income and the expenditure of the government. In the gender budgeting, the idea is for women empowerment, we are specifically allocating a specific amount of money for women related programs like the women and child development, the policing of the women, and etc. other things. So that portion of the budget that is specifically held for the women related works becomes a part of gender budgeting.
So why is it required? Why can't there be a general budget and you carry on?
Ma'am, I think that initially it was a general budget, but post that, seeing there were gender issues in the country, and to have a proper analysis of how much money is being spent for the women empowerment schemes and how good they are performing, there was the concept of gender budgeting as well as outcome budgeting was also introduced.
Okay. And what is this women and child development? What is it? Are there some schemes for women and child development?
Women and child development in general means, because we are a welfare state by constitutional definition, so the constitution provides attempts by the government so that there are policies put in place so that women empowerment happens, women grow both because of the social menace they come out as well as economically, as well as because children form the bedrock of any nation, so the child development is also focused upon. So there are scheme like Poshan scheme is there, in which the immunization of the child as well as his health is taken care of, and apart from that there are other schemes also, ma'am.
You have not heard of ICDS?
Yeah, integrated child development
You have
scheme.
heard about that. Covers women, children, infants, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
So right, sir, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
AASHU.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. So let's say you are SDM of a district of your choice. Okay. So which district would you choose?
So I would choose my home district.
Yes, good. So how would you bring Atmanirbharta at grassroots levels in your district?
Sir, the basic of Atmanirbharta as propounded by Honorable Prime Minister has been the self-sufficiency. So I think in my district I would see 3-4 options available. Firstly, in my district a major problem is unemployment. There are high levels of unemployment, but I think there are many local avenues available. Regarding the geography of my place, the Sharda river or the Mahakali river as it popularly called it goes from there. So there are avenues for tourist attraction, homestays, etc. Secondly, food processing is a major thing that can be done because of the environmental and agroclimatic zones. There are very distinct types of fruits and vegetables that are there. So a food park scheme, as per the mega food park scheme, a food park can be established there. Apart from that, sir, I think sand mining is also one thing that is a bit uncontrolled, but I think if it is better controlled, then it can also bring good revenues to the people there.
Okay. And your optional subject is geography.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me which socio-economic problems can be solved with the help of knowledge of geography?
Sir, actually the domain of geography is very wide. So social and economic problems, if I go by, so social problem first is the problem of women empowerment, because as a geography there is a domain called feminist geography which talks about the rights of the women, how they should be empowered. So that perspective can be brought in for the policy making to help enhance the gender empowerment. Apart from that, unemployment is also a very bursting social problem keeping in mind the PLFS survey that we had. So in that sense, geography provides the relation of employment to the local geography and the local topography. And particularly from my district, there is a very burning problem of migration from village level to the outside. So that problem can be tackled by using geography of that place, like river rafting can be improved upon, tourism can be improved upon. So that way geography can help.
Okay, so recently RBI announced its monetary policy.
Yes, sir.
So can you brief me about?
Sir, RBI has a bi-monthly monetary policy review in which it takes stance on the repo rates and other parameters of the economy. So it has taken a accommodative stance and it has kept the repo rate unchanged, but it has said that inflation in the country is increasing, and in the future monthly policies there can be an idea of repo rate being increasing so that inflation can be tackled off. And also, I think if I remember correctly, the SDF of facility regarding SDF was announced, that basically refers to standard deposit facility, in which you don't have to means the banks don't have to have government securities as a collateral for dealing with the RBI. There is a fixed sum that can be deposited. So that was the major things I remember from the RBI.
Okay, and what's your view on cryptocurrency and any latest news about it?
So cryptocurrency is a digital currency that has been in news for last some times. So in my views, as the stand of the government goes, means it's a new digital revolution that is taking place in the terms of the monetary policy that works. Currently it works on a centralized system, but cryptocurrency makes it decentralized. So, but I think it's a good thing in the terms that the currency and the idea behind that is very good, but it also poses the challenge of cyber risk, and because the monetary policy is a very important tool of the state to handle its affairs in the country. So I think that can be hindered if it's uncontrolled. So government has rightly called for cryptocurrency regulation, and it has taxed the cryptocurrency so that affairs of money laundering etc. don't place via cryptocurrency.
Okay, Ashu, why you wish to join civil services?
Sir, actually the background to is it when I worked for 2 years in the private sector, and there was then a urge for career switch or exploring the new things. So most of my friends either went for MS or MBA, but when I analyzed my option, I came across civil services, and I liked the profile of the job being diverse, as well as the impact it can have on the society that's more direct. There are impact via private jobs also, but it's a more direct social impact impacting a large number of people. So that's why I choose to come for the services. And also I found the syllabus to be very intriguing, because in the tech domain we are a bit aloof from the social and the economic aspects when we study engineering. So that also intrigued me a lot, that okay, I should study something about the country, about the things going on in the world. So that's why I chose the civil service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Ashu, Uttarakhand is ecologically very fragile.
Yes.
Most of state is hilly state. So, what is the, in your opinion, the best economic model you think of?
So economic model, I think if I talk about 2-3 points, like one of the very fragile thing that is often in use is the hydroelectric power projects. So, but I also think development needs energy, especially for a country like India in the growth stage we are. So I think rather than having the big budget hydroelectric power projects, we can have run of the river projects that don't divert the river flows. Apart from that, in the economy, there should not be high impact tourism. Like if I personally belong, I have gone to Nainital a lot of times, there are so much construction going on in that place that proves to be very fragile. I think construction of homes with local architecture as well as the idea of homestays, so that people, okay, I am building a 2-room house, I will build 3-room house, I will rent out a room for homestay, that can accommodate a lot of things rather than building the big, say, 5-star hotels and all those things. So I think that can be a local model of development. Apart from that, I think agriculture can be looked upon into, because the area is having very good agroclimatic condition with respect to fruits and vegetables. So we already have 2 food parks, one in Udham Singh Nagar near my district, other in Haridwar Patanjali. I think that can be more improvised upon, so that local agriculture gets connected to manufacturing and food processing industries, I think.
Now, India has been critically dependent on Russia and many other foreign countries for its defense supplies.
Yes.
But recently, there has been some change in this. position. What is your comment on that?
Sir, I think initially from Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time, when we signed the Treaty of Friendship with Russia, we were heavily dependent on Russia, particularly because our ties with the US were not very good during the Nixon regime, Nixon's being the president in the US. But post that, I think India has rightfully diversified its defense imports. We got
What are the actions
we got
from the last?
we got Rafale from France, and also we are in close partnership with US. We have predatory drones from US that are coming. So we are diversifying our defense imports. Israel has also been a major defense partner of India. So we are.
Any step towards indigenization, defense indigenization?
Yes, sir. Defense indigenization has also been a very big thing. We have been building indigenous systems and also exporting them so that they cut down on our import bill. And we have
any specific steps taken by the government of India?
I think
last
sir,
couple 3-4 years.
In the, if I remember it correctly, the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff, was established so that the streaming can be pipelined about the defense requirement from the three armed forces.
Any change in defense procurement policy?
So there was a policy launch, but I cannot remember it. I remember there was a defense procurement policy that was announced by Mr. Rajnath Singh, our Honorable Defense Minister. I cannot recall the specific points regarding the policy.
Now, you see, COVID has impacted the Indian economy in many ways.
Yes, sir.
So, you just tell me one positive and one negative.
Sir, talking about the negative, the MSME sectors have been hit a lot. The small manufacturing firms that are not very digitally empowered. But sir, there has been a boom in the edtech industry. Many things have gone online, especially even our courts have gone online. The e-court system that was established, that would become a major boon in the later part. Because of e-courts, the judicial pendency of the cases can be reduced a lot. So I think that's the positive part, that we have more highly accepted the e-platforms, but also the small players which could not be on that platform, they have suffered a lot, and that's why there is a talk of K-shaped and the V-shaped economic recovery regarding that.
My last question, AASHU, you have heard about this IPCC report?
Yes, sir.
Last Monday it was there. Any highlight? Just 1 or 2 points.
Sir, one thing was that we have to reach the carbon peak emission by 2025, otherwise it will be too late. And more effort is actually required. Means the currently $100 billion that was promised as a part of the transfer from the developed nation to developing nation, that's not going to be enough. We need more technological.
Do you see any low hanging fruit for India to achieve that target, so that we can meet the requirement which has been now basically asked by in IPCC report, that we should reduce our GHG emission by 43% by 2030? Some action points which you think India can really work next few years?
Sir, I think India has been doing pretty well. It's one of the major economies that has reduced its carbon footprint by a good amount. But I think talking about the other steps, there are policies on transportation that can be held upon. Public transport can be more efficient. The metro networks can be envisaged a lot. Recently in Bangalore also the metro has taken a lot of area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are from Uttarakhand and you are a technology hand. Now tell me, what effects, very briefly, would climate change, the apprehensions which have been raised in the IPCC report, what effects can it have on Uttarakhand?
I think, sir, as rightly pointed out by Honorable Sir, that Uttarakhand is very fragile geography as well as the environment. So, because of the climate change, there can be increase in the events like glacial lake outburst flood. We recently saw a flood disaster in the last December because of the untimely rains. Also, because of the glacier melting, there is a chance of the water scarcity being an issue in both the upper reaches as well as the lower reaches of the Ganga. I think those environmental disasters are major. Also, landslides because of the untimely rains can trigger roadblocks and other problems.
So AASHU, how can technology prevent certain disasters, which have been happening, natural disasters, which have been happening, in Uttarakhand?
I think, sir, technology is one of the major game changer coming forward regarding that. One of the things that I see is remote sensing is a technology that can happen, was even used after the Kedarnath floods, because there are many glacial lakes that have been forming in the Himalayas due to snow melting. So in that sense, remote sensing of the lakes, more good predictions before the disaster comes in, more preparedness, the information can be made available to the people via apps. These all things can be done where technology has a major role to play.
Uttarakhand also had assembly elections lately.
Yes, sir.
You know how much percentage of voting had happened? Any idea?
It was around 64%.
So 36% did not vote.
Yes, sir.
There can be many reasons.
Yes, sir.
Now you are a computer engineer. What are your views about the possibility of starting internet voting, remote voting? Are we prepared for it, or is it a good idea, or whatever? What are your views?
So I think internet voting is a very promising idea coming forward, because there are two reasons. Firstly, the voting percentage is slow, and one of the major reasons that I feel voting percentage is slow in Uttarakhand, because many of the people are migrants, so they are not actually present in the home district. So I think internet voting is definitely a good idea, but I think there are security concerns regarding that, vote tampering and all. So I think technologies like blockchain, where the blockchain is immutable, that everybody cannot change it, that can be used, and even the Election Commission of India has a project regarding it to use the blockchain, and they are researching on it if it's feasible or not. So I think it's definitely a good idea going forward, but we need to be foolproof around the security of the system that's implemented for the voting.
AASHU 2+2 dialogue is going to be held sometime, next week.
Yes, sir.
Which are the countries who are having this dialogue?
So 2+2 actually refers to a form of dialogue in diplomacy, in which the External Affairs Minister and the Defense Minister of India meet with the same counterparts of other countries. So we currently have it with USA, Japan and Australia, that are even our Quad partners. So we talk about the security because these countries have a common alignment of security and peaceful Indo-Pacific. So I think
So which country are we going to have this 2+2 now? Very shortly.
Sir, if I rightly remember, it's USA.
Any idea about the agenda that will be discussed in the 2+2?
I think 2+2 majorly the focus is on the China being very aggressive in the Indo-Pacific. So how we can contain China in the region, and also the Russia-Ukraine war will definitely be a issue in discussion in the talks.
Exactly, what do you mean by budget traveling?
So budget.
Your interest, yes, budget traveling. What do you mean by that?
So budget traveling is traveling in the constraints of the money, so that I can explore the place to the maximum level in the minimum amount of the cost.
This budget would vary for people.
Yes, sir, it
Somebody
definitely
might
does.
be a millionaire, but even he would have a budget.
No, by schemes, there are several, many.
Sir, I try it so that it's not a definite budget, but I try to minimize my cost in every sphere that I do. Suppose I am traveling from my point A to point B, I try to use state transport buses that are usually cheaper than a private firm like Redbus. Then for stay, I would see a local, even if it's a dharamshala is available in a town like Haridwar, so I would prefer that. Otherwise, the cheap stays for which I usually look up to the YouTube videos in which of a place, and there the people in comment section suggest some of the places where you can find the budget stays. Similarly, for fooding thing, I prefer local food rather than very high quality food of big restaurants. So that way I try to minimize the budget. It's a hobby that because one is that the thing that I can do in this part of the life but might not be in the later when the family things come into play. So I like to.
Right, that's good. Now, stand-up comedy has seen a lot of controversies in our country. Can you give me an example? Some controversies pertaining to stand-up comedians.
Yes, sir. Firstly, that I remember the two India thing, that Indian stand-up comedian called Veer Das. He has recited a poem in USA that made a lot of news regarding he took a perception of two Indias. One is having very high quality of life per se, and secondly not having that much development. Secondly, Munawar Farooqi was one of the stand-up comedian who faced some allegations of hurting religious sentiments. So these two things. One is also Kunal Kamra that I remember. He had some fight with Arnab Goswami, the journalist. That's why he was in news. So these are, and he also faced the contempt of the court charges. So
What happened during the Academy Awards?
recently,
The
yeah.
comedy. Yes. What happened there?
Actually, there is a comedian in USA, Chris, I think, don't know the full name. He made a joke about the famous actor Will Smith's wife regarding her appearance, and that's why he went onto the stage and slapped him.
Do you justify Smith's slap as defending his wife and his wife's?
No, sir, I don't justify. I don't think violence is solution to any such problem, especially.
No, but then was the joke in good taste? The joke made regarding her, was it in good taste?
No, sir, I don't think. If you make a joke regarding someone's physical appearance, that too if she has a disease, so that becomes really pathetic. But I think violence was not the solution. He could have talked to the organizer and he could have taken a more diplomatic route rather than having a violent action on that behalf.
Now, how does Java help us in our, say, mobile phones? What's the role of Java in my mobile phone? Can you
Sir-
explain in very simple terms?
Yes, sir. Your mobile phone, most of the mobile phones that we use apart from iPhone have Android operating systems built in, and Android is basically coded in Java, the core language.
Why does iPhone not use Java?
Sir, because the idea of iPhone was a different ecosystem altogether. So, because Android is an open source ecosystem, and everybody, even I, can take the Android and change something and build a new software. But I think for the security purpose and having an entire ecosystem of their own, iPhone doesn't go for the Android, and it has its own ecosystem in place.
So, can you give me some examples of how Java played the role in this Android mobile phone? Give me a couple of examples. How does it help us?
So most of the apps that we have in Android, they are basically coded in Java. Even the Google Play Store, means the Google Android Studio is a basic app that is used for building any Android application. As the name goes, Android Studio. So Java is the primary language that's used for creating
What
applications.
is the status of Flash nowadays?
Sorry, sir.
Flash.
Flash?
Flash was also associated with Oracle.
Yeah, the Flash player.
Flash player, yes. What's the
I think-
status of that now?
It was associated, in my right knowledge, it was associated with Adobe, not with Oracle.
Acha.
Adobe systems.
And lastly, tell me something about Oracle's role in cloud services. What's Oracle's role there?
Sir, actually, I work for Oracle Cloud. OCI, it's
so-
called Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Alright.
So they are providing cloud services to enterprise as well as the end consumers, in which you can rent out a cloud space on Oracle's behalf, and you can perform the operations. Like, we can have, like, if you are, suppose you are starting a company and you have some users to be registered, then you can take, you can pay Oracle, then they will provide you some cloud space in which your users can go and register. Their entire management from login to log out and other services is managed by Oracle. So it's kind of outsourcing of that part of managing your customers.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.